Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.
the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
My guest today on Sports Files is the head football coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, Bret Bielema. Spring football is either wrapped up or is winding down at universities across the nation, and that includes in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where the Razorbacks will play their annual red-white spring game next Saturday. Today, head coach Bret Bielema joins me to chat up the Hogs. But before that, two major local stories of importance. First, since we last spoke to you, Josh Pastner surprised seemingly everyone in Tiger Nation by accepting a job to coach the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and the university acted quickly to replace him with Tubby Smith. The much maligned, now former Memphis head coach, just recently completed his 7th season with the Tigers. Pastner was owed $10.6 million, so the news was not only stunning, but incredibly fortunate for the athletic department that undoubtedly wanted to make a change, but was not financially viable. Smith comes to Memphis from Texas Tech after leading the Red Raiders into the NCAA tournament this past season. Tubby was named the Big 12 Coach of the Year and was the Sporting News National Coach of the Year. Smith won a national title as coach of Kentucky and is one of only 7 active coaches with a national title and 500 or more career wins. The 64-year-old signed a 5-year deal worth $15.45 million. We'll have much more next week as we assemble a panel to discuss the move and the future of Memphis Tigers basketball. Now, one other note involving the Tigers, freshman sensation Dedrick Lawson has decided to shelve his plans for testing the NBA waters and instead will return for a sophomore season, which is obviously welcome news for everyone. Dedrick indicated the chance to continue to play with his brother KJ was more important to him at this moment, and another season can only strengthen his abilities. Now the other local story that we want to focus on, and it involves the Grizzlies, who wrapped up their regular season Wednesday night as they fell at Golden State in the Warriors' record-breaking 73rd win of the season. The Grizz finished with a record of 42-40 and earned the 7th seed in the West. They will face 2nd seed San Antonio in the opening round of the playoffs. The rash of injuries, including those to stars Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, hampered the team, but didn't keep them from a 6th straight winning season and a playoff spot. The Grizz used a record 28 different players this season, and it was an incredible feat just to hang on and make the playoffs. Now comes the major challenge of trying to give the Spurs a battle in their best-of-7 series. Game 1 is set for tomorrow in San Antonio at 7. Then Game 2 is Tuesday night at 8:30. The scene shifts to FedEx Forum for Games 3 Friday night at 8:30 and Game 4 next Sunday at noon. Okay, now to my interview with Arkansas football coach Bret Bielema, who was in West Memphis several days ago. Coach, great to see you again.
Great to see you.
So how's spring football? How's the team looking?
You know, we got practice 9 done on Tuesday, so we got 6 more in front of us. I think the kids have brought a good attitude. They got a lot of good players to replace and taking advantage of every day. That's all we can ask them to do at this point. Everybody wants to jump ahead of the season, but
right.
This is actually probably one of the more enjoyable times of the year for me as a coach. There's not that pressure of a Saturday win. You're just trying to get better every day, and our kids really buy into it.
So we have all the cameras around here. They are taping a internet YouTube show called Being Bret Bielema. Are you enjoying that?
You know, they're not around all that much. We've selected some locations. We took them on a recruiting trip with us. We've been at some different events around the university. We wanted to get one. My wife was coming with us. Unfortunately, her father-in-law's not, or my father-in-law, her dad's not doing well.
Right.
But we wanted to get a chance with her to be around it just because she's around so much. But we wanted to take advantage of Memphis today, just obviously with the bowl game, and we knew it'd be a pretty live crowd. Usually when you got a casino and a bar involved, everybody tends to be a little bit livelier.
All right, so you limit the cameras.
Yeah.
They're not intruding. They're not there all the time. They're just there every once in a while. But it's a great series.
obviously, Bo and his crew do a great job, but we have final edit to make sure we don't see anything we don't want to see. And,
There you go.
Really, because of recruiting rules, just when we were recruiting, we couldn't say where we're at, we couldn't say certain things, can't talk about prospects. I was in a car, they were filming, but we were talking to a student athlete's parent who's a sensitive subject, so there's certain things they can't do. But really, when they're around, I just kind of be myself, exactly what they wanted us to do, and it's been a lot of fun.
Do you have to have somebody from the school check the rules?
I pretty much know the rules by now. This is my going to my 11th year, and I kind of know what you can and can't do.
Well, you guys had a great experience last year in Memphis, winning the AutoZone Liberty Bowl game over Kansas State, and then you stayed for a couple of days.
After the bowl game, really made me take a look as close as what we drove over with our players, and you realize how short a trip it can be, and a lot of really good players in the area. And Randy Shannon hit it for me my first year, but we really didn't dive into it full go. So
Right.
Starting this spring, we've kind of upped the ante a little bit more, and with our recent success here, we've tried to capitalize on that as well. So if there's a good player and they want to play at Arkansas, we'll make sure we get a look at them.
Well, you added some coaches to your staff this year, including Paul Rhodes. Ironically, I had him on this very show, Sports Files, when he was the coach at Iowa State, and they were in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl game. So talk about those coaches, the additions, especially Paul.
Paul and I probably met 15 years ago. He was at Iowa State. He was the DB coach there, became a defense coordinator, left and went to Pitt. He was a great reputation as a defense coordinator, went to Auburn. Then he got his head coaching opportunity, and
Right.
we'd see each other occasionally here and there. And then, ironically, how the whole thing worked out, his son is a track athlete at Iowa State as well. And obviously, since he was let go there, he had some free time, and he came down to watch his son. I got a text from him and just said, "Hey, I'm in town, swing by." And so I said, absolutely. He swung by. His wife, Vicki, was with him, and gave him a tour of the complex. Jeff Long actually knew him from his Pittsburgh days. So we had just seen him, and then about 2 weeks later, I lost my DB coach, and he didn't really pop up in my mind. I'll give you that. As a former head coach, it's just not one of those normal things. And he reached out to my defense coordinator, Ross Smith, and me both, and said, "Hey, if you guys are interested, I'm interested." And that got me very interested, and the rest is where it's at. I hired an O-line coach. I didn't think I'd ever hire a guy from Michigan, but I did. Kurt Anderson.
You gave in, right?
I did. He's been a superstar, really technique oriented. I thought our O-line, has done some really good things, but overall, we needed to play better against better competition, against the Alabamas, and we needed to rush the ball, be able to run the football in some critical moments. And I wanted someone that was NFL background. So I went after Kurt, and he's been a huge addition, a great recruiter as well. And then probably the guy that I was most excited to get here, Reggie Mitchell, who had been a guy that I competed against on the recruiting trails for a long time. He was at Kansas. I was able to bring him in as our running back coach. My last 4 running back coaches have all been promoted to the NFL after I've hired them, so I'm kind of tired of supplying the NFL with coaches. But if you hire good ones, they'll get them.
Absolutely. So what are your biggest concerns here in the off season? Obviously wrapping up spring football, but as you go into next year, you open up camp, what's first and foremost on your mind?
Without a doubt, you've got to replace the people that you've lost. And sometimes that isn't one person, all right? So Hunter Henry was an exceptional football player. I mean, I learned this when I lost J.J. Watt. It was a big learning moment for me. Everybody wanted to know how you're going to replace J.J. Watt. Well, you don't replace J.J. Watt with one person. There's only been one J.J. Watt in my lifetime. But the production and the numbers he had may come from 1, 2, maybe sometimes 3 people.
Right.
And so Hunter, we're going to use Sprinkle, but he isn't. He's a different player than Hunter. So we want Jeremy to be the Jeremy he was a year ago, take on a little bit more. But now some of these other tight ends got to add into it. So that's the part, And then Sebastian Tretola, Mitch Smothers, Denver Kirkland on the offensive line. I have to replace 2 running backs, 2 juniors that went out in the draft, as well as a running back coach. So it sounds overwhelming, but it's really not that tough. I have a roster that I believe in, that we've been developing. No one may know their names right now, but they will at the end. And I think that's the fun part about coaching.
So did you expect Alex Collins to forego his final year and opt for the NFL draft?
I was probably 50-50. I thought deep down Alex kind of wanted to stay. I know he's going to get a lot of pressure from his family to leave. We went down, had a great talk. I still think he needed another year of growth. One of the things that people have this misconception, when you declare for the NFL, everybody just thinks you're in the NFL. Well, 3 things got to happen. You have to get invited to a roster, you have to make a roster, and then you have to sustain life on that roster. So wherever Alex gets drafted, then he's got to make the team, and then he's got to be able to sustain a number of years there. There's I've witnessed a junior linebacker that came out who was the greatest Mike linebacker I've ever coached, got drafted in the second round, probably would have been a first rounder the next year, and in 2 years he was out of the league because he wasn't mature enough. And that's the thing that I pray that Alex is ready for.
I would imagine that when you sit down with players, you give an honest evaluation of where they stand as far as their NFL dreams. Did Alex ask you about that? What
Absolutely.
did you say?
We got a pretty standardized format. I've done it for, going on about 8-9 years now. The NFL provides a number for you, and that's pretty standard. You just go over it, you show it to them. This is what they project you to do, what the projection means, and what you've witnessed over the course of time. There's actually a statistical data that I can draw that goes back 10, 12 years that shows projections and where reality ended up.
Wow.
So you can do pure numbers, but then you also, Alex and I are very close. He visited me when I was at Wisconsin twice, and then followed me here and visited. I mean, he's a kid that I consider near and dear to my heart. But you got to put that aside and also think about from a business point of view. Hunter, when he came and decided he wanted to go, he projected to be a first-round draft pick. I'll pack your bags for you. You know what I mean? Love to have had him, but those guys, if you're really not projected to be a first or second rounder, you can earn. For instance, Darius Philon, a Dackle that went out a year ago, he was the middle of the round 6th pick. If he would have came and stayed and just been a middle of the round 3rd round pick, he'd probably be worth about $3 to $4 million a year over the next 3 to 4 years. You never get that money back, and that's a frustrating thing to witness.
It's interesting. It's almost like analytics that is being used a lot in sports today in a different way to kind of project where these guys are going to go. So they get the numbers right in front of them. Let me ask you about the quarterback situation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're losing Brandon. Where do we stand right now?
We got great competition. Austin Allen by far kind of stands out. He's been there the longest. He's got an extremely live arm. He's got the kids' respect. I think he's the one when you walk in the huddle, he looks like he's been there. I always listen. You think that the media, you guys, I only listen to what that I'm saying, but I listen to what you say, and right. I thought it was an interesting perspective. I got a question last Saturday where one of the media people said to me, he looks like one of the veteran players out there, and I thought that was a very true explanation, but also kind of a broad statement that other people see what I see. But I tell you, Ray Peavy's had a nice spring. He's got a very, very accurate ball. He's very, very good about on the run, picking up different things and seeing how it develops. He's an explosive player. Ty Story by far is playing as good a football as I've seen him play since we've gotten him. Ricky Town, the young man from USC, the transfer, he's just still kind of getting used to it. He's hearing it all for the first time, so his inexperience is the only thing that's really preventing him.
You have to replace some of those big uglies, right?
Yeah, up front. Yeah, we got. It's kind of a work in progress. 2 guys that have jumped out by far. Frank Ragnow moving into center, looks like a very, very stout, strong, very, very good player. And then moving Yelda for Holt to guard has been a natural process that I think is going to be able to pay dividends for us. And then Brian Wallace, he was dinged up a couple days, but he's had a really nice spring so far.
How much progress do you think you made from year 1 to year 2?
Good progress, but it was about building depth. I think you're going to have good players, and if they're well coached, they're going to move forward. But it's about how many good players can you develop,
Right.
And in this league, in the SEC West, you better have a roster that's ready to compete because you can't do it just a one deep.
So as you know, the NCAA came down with their ruling on satellite camps, and they're now saying no satellite camps for anybody, no matter what the conference thinks. What do you think about that decision?
Well, you just play by the rules. One of the things that we try to do as coaches is give input to our conference and whatnot. And really, within our conference, we were a little bit split. I wanted to do satellite camps as well as probably a couple. I think that's an edge that we need at Arkansas. For us to do certain things, we have to do things differently than other people. Mm-hmm. I understand why some schools didn't want to do it. I think if you're at a level where you can kind of already get whoever you want just by being present, I understand why you don't want to change the rules. But I like, 4 years ago when I came here, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State were coming into Texas and doing these satellite camps. And I'm like, what is this? How can this be legal? Brought it to our attention, and then because we brought it to their attention, it began to grow a little bit more. And then really, the guy that broke it open, everybody thinks it's Harbaugh, was James Franklin. James Franklin, when he went from Vanderbilt, he was aware because of these conversations. And then James put one on his first year in Atlanta, and he kind of, and then all of a sudden Michigan copycatted, but it was one of those, I think, where everybody had to take a deep breath and just realize what's really best for the game, because we were going to do probably 7 or 8
So you had them all planned.
I had them all set. We wouldn't have had enough time if it would have went forward. Plus, as I began, so I called Charlie Partridge, my former defensive line coach at FAU. I called and I set one up for FAU over the next 2 weeks. 7 of the SEC had called to do one there as well, and of course he said, I already got one here. I used Chris Ash, a lot of my former coaches that are now head coaches. It was kind of nice to, I had one set at Rutgers. We were going to do, Stephen Jones had set one, or allowed us to begin to set the process to do one in the Cowboy Stadium. We were going to do one in Houston, 2 in Louisiana, 1 in Michigan, and 1 in Chicago.
So do you believe they ruled the way they did because of all the flack around Jim Harbaugh?
Well, I don't know how they thought. I know that I think they really weighed in heavily from the students that are on this advisory board, and they really talk about taking up too much of their time. It's like this new text rule. The ones that got that banned originally were the student athletes themselves because it became so invasive into their personal time in life. So I really don't think it was that. I mean, that's probably giving a little bit too much credit to the Maize and Blue. I think it really had to do with what was just best for the game and best for the student athletes.
All right, Brett, final question for you. If there is one rule change that you could make that affects college football, what rule would you change?
The only thing at Arkansas, so we're going to get 4 to 6 in-state players usually per year that are good enough to win an SEC West or build a championship team with. And it might go to 10, but there might be a year where there's only 2. And so the thing we have to do is we have to be able to effectively recruit outside our state borders.
Right.
So one of the rules that I've been advocating for a long time is we can pay for, if I'm recruiting your son, I can recruit him and bring him in, pay for his airplane and everything else. You have to buy your own ticket. And for us in Northwest Arkansas, flying into XNA, it's a Walmart airport, and people are buying expensive tickets, and it's hard to find a cheap flight. So if we could pay for at least one parent, I think, kids make better decisions when their parents are there.
Sure.
Because if not, they can get wowed by these priceless things that in the outside world an 18-year-old kid might be wild with, but a 38-year-old father could say, wait a minute, So that'd be one that I'd really like to take a look at.
So it gives a recruit somebody to lean on, somebody he's familiar with.
Kind of an interesting, usually those sports feed off one another. Basketball allows it, football doesn't.
Well, hopefully it'll change for your sake.
I hope so.
Coach, always great to see you. Thank you so much for your time. That's Brett Bielema. We'll take a break. Overtime is next. It's always great to catch up with Coach Bielema. The Memphis Redbirds season is underway, and what are their expectations? We spoke recently with skipper Mike Schilt and several of his players.
Yeah, we're really excited. Spring training went well, but spring training can get long a little bit. We had a nice 40 days down in Jupiter, and guys are itching to get going, and we show up, and we've got beautiful weather to start the workouts here, and the ballpark looks fantastic, so we're excited to get going. The roster's pretty well set, and we feel good about what we have right now, but we've already had a couple of moves before the season started, but the guys are here and we're ready to go.
As far as the guys you do have, what do you like about your team?
I like the balance of our team. The first thing you want to talk about is the talent level. There's clearly talent across the field, and then beyond that, it's a good group of young men. It's a strong group of character guys. So it's a good combination of talent, character. I like our starting pitching. Some guys that have been in the league and have done it, and some guys that are coming up getting an opportunity, which is always exciting as well. Our bullpen's experience, so be a real strength of our club with guys with big league time. And position players are all guys that can play the game, and know how to play the game. And we had our team meeting earlier today, and the thing about it is, we have big league players in our clubhouse. Physically and mentally, they just happen to not have the opportunity right now in St. Louis. So feel good about the overall makeup of the team.
Being able to come back to my hometown again, I saw the support I received last year as far as family and friends coming out, and that's a big confidence thing for me. Be able to show up, have my immediate family here, a lot of extended family, friends, stuff like that come out and watch me play. It adds another level of excitement to me personally to come out and do what I've been doing my whole career, except they get to come to every game instead of having to get on a plane or drive a couple hours to watch me play. And then being back here in my situation now, it makes it more fun because again, I'm one phone call away. So in my eyes, I think I'm in for a good season this year to go out and compete and, give myself that opportunity.
You were in Springfield, still part of the Cardinals organization. The Cardinal Way, everybody talks about the Cardinal Way. Tell us about that from your perspective. What have you seen of it?
Man, I wish I knew the secret formula. Otherwise, I'd be out on the market. But yeah, I think the Cardinal Way, what it means to me is it's a mentality. Coming to the park every day, expecting to win and wanting to win. It's that desire to be perfect and to perform for your teammates and for the organization as well.
And being prepared to take the next step up if they need it.
Right, that's the biggest thing they preach to us is being ready, for that next step. And eventually St. Louis is to go there and be productive and make it so they're not missing anybody. So that's the biggest thing is come up and fill your spot and be ready to do that.
What's been the biggest change for you going from college, being the top draft pick, to actually playing against these pros?
I mean, just the consistency of the game. I think a lot of times in college there can be a pretty big disparity team to team. But once you get, especially into the upper levels, AA, AAA, I think the biggest thing is that there's big leaguers on every team. And, in college it's hit or miss. I'm living, breathing example of that. But here, there's at least 2 or 3 big leaguers on every team you're going to pitch against. So I'd say that's probably the biggest difference.
What did you learn about the Redbirds that you're going to be playing with in spring training?
I learned that it's an awesome group of guys. I mean, it's really fun. There's a really good mix of guys who've been around, guys who are new to the PCL, guys who are new to the Cardinals, guys who have been around the Cardinals. So I think that mix kind of keeps it fresh, keeps it fun, and keeps it exciting. I think it'll be a really exciting team to watch, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
The University of Memphis women's golf team has ventured to Palm Coast, Florida, where they are set to battle in the American Championship starting tomorrow. Recently, we tagged along with the squad in Oxford, Mississippi, as they competed in the Rebel Intercollegiate.
Oh, we've had a great year. Our fall was excellent. We started out with a win at our home event. We had several strong events after that. The spring has not been quite as strong, but I'm still seeing some great results from some very good players. It's been encouraging.
Who are your leaders?
Right now, Sydney Caldwell, one of our freshmen, shot 72 yesterday. Leanne Kabush has been leading the way with the lowest scoring average this year, and she's a junior. We've got 5 girls on the course today playing for the team, and playing number 1 today will be Sydney Caldwell. She's a freshman from Tucson, Arizona. Playing number 2 is Emily Goldenstein from St. Louis, Missouri. She's a sophomore. Playing number 3 is Madison Thomas, a freshman from Louisville, Kentucky. Number 4 is Julia Gerlach from Germany, and number 5 is Leanne Kabush from Waukesha, Wisconsin. It's a great group. The future looks very bright for Lady Tiger Golf. This is my 8th year of coaching at the University of Memphis. I played at the university from 83 to 87, and then I played a couple of years professionally, and I taught for 20 years. I'm a PGA golf pro, and I taught for 20 years in the area, and then came back into the college ranks and coaching. Sally Andrews is our assistant coach. Lynn Parks is our volunteer assistant. And a few years back, I played for Lynn Parks, and Sally Andrews was my assistant coach. Since golf is a team sport plus an individual sport, we have 5 that are playing for the team, and each day you're able to count the 4 low scores. So it can be a different 4 each day. And then there'll be an individual champion plus a team champion.
How long has she been golfing?
She started golfing the summer after her 8th grade year in school, and she wasn't very good. I think her first tournament she shot like 100. But she took some lessons and really took to the game and worked hard at it, and has become a really good golfer.
And she's a freshman now?
She's actually a junior.
Junior.
Yep.
And does she have aspirations of going on to something bigger?
I think it's in the back of her mind. I know she's thought about it and talked about it. She has to keep improving, but she's a hard worker. She's a little bit motivated by Marissa Steen, who used to golf for the University of Memphis and is now playing on the Symetra Tour. And she knows her a little bit, and she sees what Marissa has done, and I think she'd like to maybe try to do something like that.
And that'll do it for a very busy week here on Sports Files. Again, next week we'll zero in on the Tigers' new hoop hire, as well as the Grizz in the playoffs. Until then, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.